Hey now, we are getting over, and I am the Silver King, Adam Silverstein, here to lead you through these hard times. Dada, with episode 828 of your favorite professional wrestling podcast. That's right, Getting Over is back, and it is Friday, so you should know exactly what that means. We are here to break down everything that happened over the last week in NXT and over the last 2 weeks in AEW. So that means we have, once again, an absolutely loaded episode of the Getting Over Wrestling podcast. Performance-enhancing audio overflowing your ear holes, because that is how we do it right here. On the way into the show, allow the Silver King to remind you that this program
is all about Defy.
So head over to Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Leave a 5-star rating on Apple. Take a little extra time. Leave a 5-star written review. If you do, we will read it live right here on the show. Also, don't forget to follow us on social media at Getting Overcast on Twitter and Blue Sky. You get episode drops, news, analysis, highlights. You can send in questions and comments for the show. You can vote in pre- and post-show polls around premium live events and pay-per-views on YouTube when you subscribe over there. You can listen to full-length audio episodes and watch full-length video interviews across the board. You can find us at Getting Overcast. This is a real big week for Getting Over, simply because we didn't just, put together the ultimate preview for Saturday night's main event. We did a big-time John Cena retrospective, a very special episode on Wednesday. It was supposed to come out early in the afternoon. It wound up coming out later in the evening because some major college football news happened that day, and Vintage and the Silver King both had to, tackle our real life jobs and prioritize that. So I just want to make sure that no one missed that episode. I know he and I are both extremely proud of the product that we put out there, and we're proud of, I would say 95% of episodes that we do. But that one in particular, it was a little bit extra labor. And we felt it was necessary and worthwhile considering Cena's stature, and not just the fact that he's retiring, but this whole run that he went on with WWE. He'll be doing his 36th date at Saturday night's main event, obviously on Saturday in Washington, D.C. 35 that came before it. We broke all of them down. We told you whether they were great, good, bad, or ugly, and we gave them point totals just to determine, was John Cena's retirement run as bad as some people claim it was? Were there more highlights than we remember? Does it fall somewhere in between? And that was part of the conversation we had, along with providing our favorite moments of John Cena's career and giving a full ultimate preview to Saturday night's main event, involving not just the John Cena versus Gunther match. I should note, in case people didn't realize, we break down the LA Knight Gunther final to the Last Time Is Now tournament on that show, and then discuss the bona fides of Gunther as Cena's final opponent before we even get into predicting the match. So we really do have a deep conversation around Gunther along with John Cena on the show. And that was probably one of my favorite parts of that episode. But even beyond that, we break down the rest of the card, which is loaded with NXT talent. And that is exactly how the Silver King transitions into this show. We're going to talk NXT. We have a ton to discuss when it comes to AEW.
But I'm afraid I've got some news.
And this is an item that I've been meaning to talk about for weeks on the show, but I just haven't had the time to do it. TNA announced a couple weeks ago that it has signed a TV deal with AMC to air the Thursday night Impact show weekly. And they didn't say how long the deal is. I was told it's a multi-year deal. I believe it's 3 with an option. It's reportedly $30 million a year, which is huge. NXT, I thought when that deal was first signed, I thought they were getting around 35, 40 million. Reports have consistently been it's around 25 million for NXT, which means TNA is getting paid more by AMC, a cable station, than NXT is getting from the CW. Again, it makes NXT the best bargain in professional wrestling. But this is a big deal for TNA. Gives them more money to sign talent. Puts them on a much bigger platform. I think it almost has doubled the potential viewership on AMC. That doesn't mean that suddenly they're going to do 300, 400,000 a show, but it gives them the potential to do a number like that. And they just need to build up their product. It also tells us, looking back, this TNA WWE partnership it has legitimately worked out perfectly for both sides. TNA got a TV deal, a bunch of exposure on social media. WWE got talent from them directly, inroads to other young talents like Leon Slater. Plus, frankly, they're building up a brand to compete with AEW for eyeballs outside of the WWE scope. TNA, it's already gotten, even before moving to AMC, better ratings. Their ticket sales have exploded. WWE has been able to freshen up NXT a little bit with some of those TNA talents, especially the men's division, which badly needed it. Now, there's a couple interesting notes here when it comes to the TNA deal. It's going to launch on January 15th, 2026. That's going to be a live show. They do not promote it as live weekly, which makes me believe it will be live sometimes, but taped most of the time. Understandable, especially at this early juncture. Number two, it's going to air from 9 to 11 p.m. So an hour later than every other wrestling show generally starts. I don't know why. I don't know if there's an AMC program that's going to be leading into it at 8 o'clock. If they, during football season, are trying to not compete head-to-head with the start of Thursday Night Football. I don't believe during the rest of the year there's major competition on Thursday night. So it's extremely curious why this is going 9 to 11 p.m., but that's what it's going to be. Now, I would hope this means less TNA on NXT and vice versa. Not none, just less. So far, that's what we're seeing. We're not getting a lot of TNA crossover, coming out of that recent Super Show, I guess you can call it, where it was just really heavy and everyone held the titles. Now, that said, Stax did win the TNA International Championship. So, and they are doing some type of 5-on-5 steel cage match. So I honestly lost what the booking is because I'm not able to watch TNA now. And that is actually, if Silver King can speak selfishly for a moment, I'm still not going to be able to watch TNA, which is just insane to me. So I have two different packages, and I'm going to sound like an old fogey for having to, but I promise there's a reason for it. So I pay for YouTube TV, okay, and then I get Fubo. I have access to Fubo, and let's just leave it at that. But neither of them have AXS. Axis is what they call it. Neither of them have AMC. I believe Hulu Live TV and many of these other packages do have AMC, but these two do not. So despite them moving, I don't have access. And by the way, I don't have A&E either. So I haven't been able to watch LFG and all those shows. These are stations that back in the day when I had Comcast Xfinity, they just came standard. I mean, I had obviously every channel, it felt like. So whether it was Vice or AMC or A&E, I could watch any wrestling that happened to be on. Now, I actually have to go and find it. So I haven't even finished season 1 of LFG. I do like the show. I think I'm going to like it a lot less with Michelle McCool in for Mickie James, but I haven't even sniffed season 2. If any of you watch it, I would love to know whether it's worthwhile to watch or if I should just forget it and move on with my life. Clearly, I don't watch Ring of Honor. I don't have any time for that. I've had some of you ask, are we going to start covering TNA now that I got this deal? I'll tell you, if I had access to it, I probably would be able to skim it each week and include it in this show, or at least a week delayed, because obviously we tape this normally on Thursdays. But not having access to it, needing to catch up, I'll probably treat TNA like I treat Evolve, in that when I run out of stuff on my DVR and I don't have anything streaming to watch, I'll go and run through 8 to 10 episodes at once and just fast forward to the things that interest me and then tell you, oh, there were a couple things I noticed from those shows. But other than that, I really can't imagine I'm going to be watching a lot of TNA. Not their fault. It's just the packages I have and what I have access to. Now, if someone is kind enough over there to give Silver King access to the shows, then that'd be incredible. But I don't plan on paying for an AMC Plus package or the TNA package internationally or whatever the case just to watch that show. But if there's a way I can do it, I will. And if any of you have methodologies, you can let me know. But even sailing the high seas just for TNA is probably not something I'm going to do with regularity. Now, this was a week of catch-up. As I told you all, last week was crazy for me, so I did watch 8 hours of AEW. I did not have time to watch the Tony Khan interview with Ariel Helwani. I'll get to it eventually. it was the lowest priority I have right now. Not just in terms of getting over, but like in my life. It is the lowest thing that is on my list to do. I did get to scan most of the AAA Alianzas show, I want to say. I think it's the Spanish word for alliances, but I'm probably butchering it. I'm not even sure what they were supposed to be. I guess just YouTube specials. There were some great matches on both of them. The November 28th edition was the most notable by far. The opening match had some ridiculous spots. And the main event was El Grande Americano against El Hijo del Vikingo. And Americano wrestled face and Vikingo wrestled fully as a heel. I want to say for the first time. And I'll explain this a little bit more in a second. But what's so interesting is that it was an incredible match, despite Vikingo severely limiting his moveset, which was sensible because he was not wrestling for cheers. His aim was not to please the crowd. There was more storytelling between the bells than I expected. The fans went nuts when Americano kicked out of a 450. They went even crazier when he kicked out of a 630 senton. Americano tapped him out after the referee got knocked down. Vikingo then used a piece of gear as a weapon for a false finish. He tried to rip at the mask, only for Los Americanos and Dragon Lee to save. Grande was able to load his mask as a face, mind you. He's cheating. And he hit his running headbutt to the dome and got the win over Vikingo. Grande and Vikingo brawled to separation after the bell. It was just outstanding. And excuse me, let me just correct myself. Dragon and Vikingo brawled to separation after the bell. But this was indeed outstanding. The venue was nowhere near full. You saw tons of empty seats across from the hard cam. I assume they were expensive and that was the reason, but my heavens, was this crowd insanely hot. This match built and built and built to a crescendo finish. I don't want to sit here and call it a must watch, but if you do have interest already in AAA under WWE and you like El Grande Americano and Dragon Lee and you know Vikingo is talented, there's no debating that, then you do absolutely need to watch it. This is a case of a crowd raising a match. I gave it 4.5 stars and an A. It's the only match on those two shows I was able to watch like start to finish and actually grade. What you do need to know is that Vikingo and Dragon, they teamed in the prior event, which I want to say was November 21st, but it might have been a different date, but they teamed up. And Vikingo walked out on Dragon, cementing himself as a heel. This is after the crowd turned on him because WWE chose Vikingo over Alberto Del Rio, or Alberto El Patron, I think is his name over there, who's no longer with the promotion. So at the end of the show, Rey Mysterio came out. He told Vikingo and Dragon he respected both of them, and then he proposed a fight at the final AAA show of the year, December 20th in Guadalajara. So the guys shook hands, but Vikingo took a cheap shot. Dragon ultimately stood tall at the end. That should be an insane match between two of the top four guys in the promotion right now. The other two are the champion, Dominic Mysterio, obviously, and Americano, who is insanely over. Now, hopefully that's broadcast in English. Both of these shows were not. They were Spanish only. They're on the WWE YouTube channel, so you're able to watch. And what's really cool is they have markings for each match. So for the November 28th episode, if you are interested, you can watch that first match, which is just crazy. And then fast forward all the way to the main event. And I think you pretty much would only have to watch like one or two commercial breaks, whether you use a VPN or don't. It's on YouTube and there are ads, so you're not going to be able to get away from that. So that said, let's move into the rest of the show. We're going to give you a second look briefly at NXT Deadline. Then we're going to break down everything that happened on NXT. And of course, we're going to cover not 2, 4, or 6, but 8 hours of AEW in one sitting. And don't worry, I truncated the breakdown. That way it fit in a normal show. Now, before we do get to all of that, Silver King has to remind you that here at Getting Over,
I happen to love the number 5.
and I hope you do as well, because for $5 a month, $50 for the entire year, you can become an official Getting Overhead. Just visit buymeacoffee.com/gettingover, sign up. You'll get bonus audio, the fastest 5 minutes in professional wrestling, instant reactions to every major show, and exclusive news analysis posts every week. This supports the show financially. We only have one sponsor. You'll hear from them later. This is how we pay the bills. Beyond that, you get additional content for your subscription. There's every reason in the world to visit buymeacoffee.com/gettingover and support your boys. All right, let's get to the NXT Deadline second look. All in all, This was one of the best WWE Premium Live events of the year. I'm not sure I said that Saturday, despite giving it a low A grade. It kicked the shit out of Survivor Series. Women's Iron Survivor Challenge, Kendall Gray winning over Sol Ruka, Lola Vice, Jordan Grace, Kalani Jordan. I gave this 4.5 stars and an A. I stand by that grade. I don't even have additional notes on this. It's rare that we do one of these and like Silver King, watches it back and I go, yeah, no, I nailed that. I'm good. I don't have anything to add. That was the case here. And you know what? It was also the case with the NXT Championship match. Oba Femi defeating Ricky Saints for the title. I gave it 4 stars and A-. Completely stand by it. It didn't build to the crescendo finish that you want when there's a title change. It felt like they just didn't get all the way there. But it was a quality match for the second time between them. And Saints got his run with the title, and now it's pretty interesting to see the direction he's going, which we'll talk about momentarily. Men's Iron Survivor Challenge. Javon Evans, Leon Slater, Joe Hendry, Miles Bourne, and Deion Lennox. Of course, Javon won this match. Bourne had one of the worst Titantrons I've ever seen. And that's saying something, because for years, all WWE would do was put word art on plain backgrounds. Now, some of you implored me to rewatch this match. You felt my grading was way too low. I wasn't giving it enough respect. But I think you all forget I rewatch every PLE and pay-per-view match that I can anyway. So of course I rewatched it. And yes, I ultimately wound up choosing the higher grade at 4.25 stars A, because I was on the border A-. Some of you suggested this was better than the women's match. No way, no how.
Now go home and smoke some more crack.
The women's match was probably, a top 5 or 6 women's match in WWE this year. Something like that. Now, this was really good, but they just didn't do enough overall. And as I said Saturday night, the 5-way tie and the final second pinfall was immensely repetitive. It would have worked better in a silo, but it came after a better version was executed by the women. So how could we say that this was a better match if everything the women did, apples to apples, was literally better? I'm glad the telegraphing of Lennox did not land and he didn't win. I did get swerved a bit in the finish when Hendry picked up Slater. I thought that was going to be the end. Time was ticking off. My prediction was that Hendry was going to win the match. I'm like, oh my God, I'm so smart. Of course they're doing exactly what I predicted. And then of course didn't happen. They went over the ropes. But the timing was awesome. And that just deserves a lot of credit, even if I felt it was, pretty much repetitive. Beyond my comments about the Iron Survivor Challenge on Saturday night during our instant analysis, which you should really listen to if for some reason you missed it, more thoughts popped into my head on rewatch. First, WWE needs to understand that near fall finishes can be just as effective as last second falls. Having a babyface get a fall with like 2 minutes remaining and then kick out with 5 minutes remaining so someone doesn't tie him, or refuse to tap out going through the final buzzer, gutting out the victory, that works. There can be exciting endings to this match that do not include an actual fall in the final seconds. Hanging on to a lead. Maybe one guy is up a fall and he spends the last minute breaking up pins and submissions that everyone else in the match is trying. That would not only be as effective, it might be more exciting. Can you imagine if Javon got that second fall with like 3 minutes to spare, right? And all he did for the rest of the match was fly off the ropes, springboard this, top rope that, breaking up falls, running into people, getting thrown out of the ring, running back in, hitting a tope suicida. Like, that would have been crazy if they did something like that, right? Except they didn't. It's okay to only have 6 total false finishes in a match like this if you have real strong false finishes sprinkled in. To repeat what I said Saturday, it was absurd that there were 17 falls across 50 minutes in these 2 matches combined, and all of them were via pin. The match stipulation states that submissions and disqualifications also count. I actually like the DQ part of the rule because it keeps the match clean. But you gotta have some people trying submissions to mix it up a little bit, even if it's just in one of the matches. I believe Jordan Grace is the only person who even tried a submission, and she did it for 5 seconds and it got broken up. The point being, there is no excuse for the lack of creativity, not just on Saturday, but over the years. These matches are great. The stipulation is awesome, but they can easily be better with some tweaks, including, as I said Saturday, the winner not getting a throwaway match, usually, on a TV special 4 weeks later. Iron Survivor Challenge, it should be NXT's Royal Rumble or Elimination Chamber. The match that earns you the number one contendership for the big show. Instead, it earns you a number one contendership for, you could maybe argue, the most important TV special of the entire year, but not a premium live event. And that's what WWE bases its big moments around. Lastly, WWE did botch the Tony D'Angelo return. You cannot have a guy come out in darkness, wearing unfamiliar clothes, looking different, without any type of music, and expect people to know who has shown up. I believe if they had done it differently, Tony D would have at least gotten some pop, but this was seriously ill-conceived, and they block this stuff out. I don't know how they could have done this and thought, wow, the live crowd's really going to know it's him. Didn't make any sense. Tatum Paxley against Izzy Dame, 3.25 stars and a B. I liked the storytelling aspect of this. I told you, my concerns and why the finish I thought was stupid, but I liked what they did during the match. North American Championship, Ethan Page, Mr. Iguana, 3 stars, B-. Again, no changes there. It was an okay match. One of the more disappointing bouts during Page's North American Championship run. And that takes us away from Deadline and into NXT on Tuesday night. Let's just get into breaking it down. Obafemi opened the show saying true power doesn't bend or break, it watches the world revolve around it. Good line, especially to open a promo. He credited Ricky Saints for taking him down at No Mercy, but said the universe has reset itself, and he's now focused teaching Cody Rhodes that he's not the potential or the future, he's the now and the inevitable in all of his glory. Tough to ask for more from a guy like him in a spot like that. Pitch perfect from Oba. Femi was ready to talk about Javon Evans and Tony D'Angelo, but Saints interrupted, crediting the new champion for being the better man at Deadline. Ricky questioned whether he could regain the title before showing confidence to that end, saying he was not about to fade away. He wanted to get back on course with a rubber match, considering they are 1-1. Fair play. Those are the circumstances. You're 1-1. You should get a third match. Solid effort from Saints. Javon interrupted both of them, though. He said he didn't want to wait till New Year's Eve for the title match, considering he's on fire, he's locked in, he's got all the momentum. He wanted the opportunity right away. Ricky tried to calm him down. He said, don't rush into this. It would be a better play to fight me for the title anyway. I've had your back at every juncture. Just listen to me. He said, Javon, think it through. Wait, make a decision. Evans obviously declined that advice, saying no one can touch him right now, and the play that he wants to make is for the title. That appeared to sell Ricky on it. He supported the decision, backed him up. Oba answered with a great line. He was like, you two beltless, titleless, championship-less guys. You want to tell the champion how to run his reign? Loved that. The faces teamed up, calling him scared. Femi clarified he's not scared of dude. He's beaten him at every juncture, and he's going to take this match. Saints was great during this segment with his facial expressions. It really sold his conflict and thoughts running through his mind as it progressed. You really had to look for it. All three of these guys, they nailed their respective parts. On the surface, I was annoyed at bumping up the title match by a month in an unadvertised spot. However, this solved many of the problems I alluded to when I predicted that Evans would not win Iron Survivor Challenge and explained the complications that came with him winning the match. My primary issue was him contending for the title again and fighting Femi again, knowing he would lose before finally beating Oba at Stand and Deliver, which has been the clear direction for the last few months at least. I further disliked that the match would have come on New Year's Eve after a series of taped shows coming out of the holidays when NXT and really wrestling in totality is at its coldest point of the year. Pushing the match up to Tuesday night, it solved the latter issue. And while I still didn't like the idea of Javon getting a title match against Oba, given what I explained, it added another month of distance between this match and a potential rematch at Stand and Deliver. But what this also did was waste the Iron Survivor Challenge stipulation by erasing the benefit of winning it in 72 hours. So the end result is that this was a better decision than running it at New Year's Eve, but worse than someone else having won that match and earning the number one contendership, as I've been stating for the better part of a month. Still, the segment between all three guys was nails. Each of them was great. It was some of the best live mic work Javon has done since joining WWE. I know Saints cut off Femi as he was about to mention Tony D, but Javon not talking about Tony taking him out with that spine buster at the end of the show, that was silly. That it should have at least been part of his promo. Instead, he completely ignored it, just like he ignored Dark State taking him and Leon Slater out at that show, Worlds Collide or whatever held the show, the TNA show. I forget what it was called. They ignored that and then moved on and then circled back to it. I understand he was focused on Oba. He should have said, Tony's not going to deter me. will handle him after I win the NXT championship. Femi, I'm focused on you. Like, that's all he had to say. And he just ignored it. Femi later backstage said champions learn to expect the unexpected and make it predictable. I guess he watched Big Brother. He hoped Rhodes was watching so he could learn what he's capable of achieving. Then he mocked Cody for being the face of the company in QB1, wondering what everyone will say when he puts him down, beating the Iron Survivor and then breaking the American Nightmare. Smart way to add some build for Saturday night's main event on NXT. Femi's confidence, it's through the roof right now. He still has some areas of his game that he can perfect, and it's one of the reasons why he's still in NXT. But on a promo level, I mean, you want a confident tweener champion promo? Oba Femi can do it, man, in every way. It's incredible. So the NXT Championship indeed main evented the show. Femi against Evans. Javon tried but failed on a springboard cutter at the bell, adding a Bazaiku knee, coming back for a hot falls finish just in the opening seconds. Oba then mimed smoking a joint while holding Javon in his arm for a backbreaker. That was odd, but also awesome. They had a fun, albeit clunky sequence of counters ringside until Evans got chopped down from the ring apron. Javon took Oba down with a hurricanrana ringside, then completely dodged him, charging with Femi flying over the announce table and Booker T doing a bump despite not being touched. Pretty chaotic and funny. When Oba broke the count, Evans hit a springboard frog splash nearly across the whole ring, plus a regular frog splash into the middle of the ring for a false finish. Javon followed with a tope con hero, but got knocked out flying with an anti-air forearm. He responded with a German suplex. Femi no-sold it, only to eat a cutter when he charged at Evans for another false finish. Oba then countered Red Dot with a running European uppercut in the best-looking spot of the match. Femi followed with a toss slam, but Evans countered fall from grace with a second cutter, hitting a double jump cutter, only for the referee right at the 3 count to get pulled out of the ring by Saints. Evans flew at Saints, hit another Red Dot on Femi, only to take a lariat, 2 running European uppercuts, and fall from grace for the title retention. My number one takeaway after this match is that Oba Javon in Las Vegas at Stand and Deliver is going to be a red hot ticket because this match was exceptional. And these guys, when it's all on the line on a major stage, they're going to do something incredibly special. And I believe create an all-time NXT moment. I maintain what I said on the NXT Deadline Instant Analysis. It would have been preferable for Evans and Femi not to lock up again until that show. However, this was like the next best booking if you were going to have them fight. They didn't delay the match for New Year's Evil, which worried me. They didn't have Femi win clean or via happenstance. Javon was as protected as he could be. He basically had the champion pinned, only to get screwed by a friend-turned-foe who turned his back. And it was set up perfectly by the opening segment, in which Saints believed he had a claim to the title match first, but Evans jumped ahead of him, wanting his match immediately despite being number one contender at a firm date in the future. There's going to be, or I guess since it's now Friday, there has been a lot of people crying about this booking. They're wrong. They're impatient. And they're fickle. It's perfectly fine to disagree with the booking style, but you need to see the forest through the trees of someone struggling to reach a mountaintop only to find the summit on the biggest show of the year in front of the biggest crowd that they may get of the entire year. It has happened so many times before. And the guy booking this show, Shawn Michaels, he knows precisely how to execute it. The boyhood dream and all. This match was an absolute
banger.
4.25 stars. I almost went higher. I couldn't get there with the finish. The vision is clear moving forward. Evans has Saints and probably D'Angelo eventually in his way. Femi needs to go through whomever awaits at New Year's Evil, with possibly Saints and D'Angelo waiting on the other side. I'm guessing Lennox is going to win this fatal 4-way number one contendership they're going to do next week and be that opponent, just hearkening back into everything that we discussed, on the Ultimate Preview for Deadline and even during Deadline, thinking Lennox might win that match. And once all those guys are vanquished by both Javon and Oba, they meet again in the big match on the big show. So it is written, so it will be done. At least that's how I see it.
If you will it, dude, it isn't a dream.
My bigger problem when it comes to Evans booking, and I've said this before, is that he is now 0-10-1 in championship matches. And that is WWE's own fault. If you want him to fail every time he goes after the NXT title, fine. But it is absurd that he never won the tag team championship or the North American championship during the last 2 years. We've gone over all the opportunities he's had to win those titles. When he teamed with Cedric Alexander, they should have been tag team champions. Even if they were short reigns, just having one of those straps would have made the wait for the NXT title that much more palatable. I'm just realizing I forgot to talk about the Saints heel turn a little bit. It was a good move. He needed an edge and a change of character. He was doing well enough as a face. He's always been a better heel. And using Javon as the fulcrum to turn him, it's going to get immense heat immediately next week. That should be to his benefit. And it's also the last track someone takes before they get the main roster call-up. We've seen that many times before. So Saints as a heel, but, believing that he has a reason to do what he did because Javon jumped him in line, that's the best types of heels. They believe what they're saying, and there's a shred of truth to their arguments. Ethan Page opened hour 2 of NXT, bragging about his success while criticizing the so-called wrestlers below him, focusing on social media, trying to get the Triple H finger point rather than actually going about it and doing it themselves, achieving in the ring. Page said John Cena will be forgotten about in a week after he retires, leaving a huge void that his ego is ready to fill. He talked about platforming the North American title, considering how many companies have sent talent trying to take it from him. Then he went off about being the biggest and greatest superstar in WWE when the lights went out, and we got the same Tony D gimmick as Deadline with the Titantron showing the bridge video, the lights going out, like I said, and Tony D hitting his one-armed spinebuster before dropping black fabric onto Page. Ethan was on fire, obviously. D'Angelo returning and doing the same thing he did 72 hours earlier. It was a shrug for me. It seems like he's going after his former rivals, but moving from the NXT champion and the number 1 contender to the North American champion with no mention of what you did to those other guys, it's really odd. Needs to be some type of storyline explanation here because to this point, it's rather boring. The crowd is not reacting to it at all, and frankly, it's failing. Lennox backstage commiserated with the losers from that Iron Survivor Challenge. Ava informed them, as I mentioned a moment ago, they will have a fatal 4-way match, creating a new number 1 contender for New Year's Evil since the title will be defended on that show. Paige interrupted, angry about the way he's been attacked of late, but all the other guys just clowned him. Fun little segment. Normally would not like a bunch of losers getting another opportunity, but considering they were all tied in the match and the last fall did come in the final seconds, this actually makes sense. Tatum Paxley sat backstage in a darkened spot, the remnants of her dollhouse with dolls and ripped up pictures all strewn around. She credited Izzy Dame for ending the hopeless and pathetic version of Tatum. Now she said she has nothing left to lose. She revealed the calling dolls, like for the men, saying she's now going to play her own game. She's taking it out one by one until she and Izzy are alone, all that's left together. I'm admittedly interested to see how Paxley plans on taking out the men of the Culling. I don't recall her having any guys on her side recently other than the Culling. So it's going to be interesting to see if she just haunts them and outsmarts them, almost like Kevin Malone in Home Alone, or perhaps recruits a couple people who share a similar mindset and help her get over the guys. That way it's just her and Izzy left. This was a far better promo from Tatum than we saw before Deadline. And the fact that she's getting featured like this lends credence to the idea that NXT is going to bubble her back up into the title picture once the feud with Izzy is done. She's one of the best workers and easily the best character in this women's division, so fingers crossed we actually get there. Jordan Grace fought Kalani Jordan. Grace had a stretch muffler suplex early. Lonnie tried but failed to use a chair on Grace's knee, which was laying on the steel steps. This was during a regulation match, mind you. They did an interesting handstand joust with their legs before Grace did a crucifix into a pair of short arm lariats with wrist control, followed by Chaos Theory. She then hit a Grace under pressure off the steel steps before herself grabbing the chair again in a regulation match. The referee pulled it away, so Lonnie took advantage by booting Grace off the steel steps through the ringside barricade, hitting a 450 back inside to get the win. This was a great match surrounded by bullshit. The chair stuff was stupid. The barricade exploding from regular impact was dumb. Grace losing another match, even if she has an excuse, was rather ridiculous. I've defended her booking to this point, but now I'm just confused what they're doing with her, even considering the segment that followed. The last thing Lonnie needed was another win when she's almost never not involved in a title picture. But the wrestling was quite strong. They worked extremely well together outside of the crap I mentioned. That's probably why it was so bothersome, because otherwise I'd be praising this up and down. So we had a North American Open Challenge, Blake Monroe against an opponent to be determined. Blake cut a promo before the bell that was probably her best in-ring talking segment to date, just super smooth. The entire locker room came out simultaneously trying to answer the challenge, only for Thea Hale to pop in from the other side of the ring, jumping on Monroe and immediately forcing her to tap out in the Kimura lock. There was no referee, the bell never rang, so it was completely worthless and relatively dumb on Thea's part to not ensure it was official before she put in the move. Blake ran away, clutching her title when she was released from the lock, basically realizing she got herself into a really bad situation. Later backstage, Blake blamed Ava for setting her up like a piece of meat in shark-infested waters, even though this was Monroe's own idea. Then she rescinded the open challenge concept, so Ava said, okay, you're just going to have a title match against Thea, presumably next week. This worked as character stuff for Monroe, but promising a title match, booking a full week ahead to promote it, and then not delivering is quite annoying. At least it was built as a real open challenge with a bunch of women vying for the opportunity and Hale outsmarting the rest by coming in from a different direction. Stark contrast to the main roster as we detailed on the WWE show this Tuesday. Still, it was incredibly lame and it was just poor creative. I get that it's within Thea's character to not think and just do shit, but it was basically like 90 seconds of WTF and then it ended. Not what you want. The backstage segment was better than what we got in the ring. It showed Blake's personality plus, and Ava continues to be an arrow pointing up. It just seems like she's finally found her groove a little bit, but this was a low point on the show. You only get so many opportunities to make people, and they could have done something really fun and unique here, and instead, they just didn't deliver us anything. It was chaotic, and they moved on from it, and it was a failure. Now, between these two segments, Grace was backstage frustrated about joining NXT as a dominant wrestler, only to become someone who loses to neophytes. Hale tried to gas her up, saying she needs to believe in herself even in the face of adversity. But Grace was hesitant to take advice from a 16-year-old who's really 22. At least there's a creative reason they're booking Grace in this manner as a loser. I'm not entirely sure how this is going to work from a character standpoint, but maybe it plays into Thea working with Blake. Jordan gets her back, then winds up stepping in as the next challenger once Hale loses, and she finally beats her for the title. It's just tough to see the forest from the trees in this situation, considering she's been such a consistent loser since joining this brand, and this is the first time they're actually leaning into it. We had Sol Ruca against Ren Sinclair. Kendall Gray came out with Sinclair, but Zarya did not show up until a couple minutes into the match when she appeared in the crowd with her arms folded, distracting Ruca. It was relatively even. Ren hit a nice butterfly suplex. Sol did her really dumb straight-legged backstabber. This does not work as a move. It never makes any impact. It's like Javon Evans' flip over coast to coast. If you're doing the move and it looks cool, but it doesn't work, like no one can get hurt from it, don't do the move. Anyway, she hit Soul Snatcher after that for the win. Sol later chased Zarya into the parking lot where she said that she showed up to support her, even though she wasn't ready to talk stuff out with her yet. Sol asked Zarya to join her at Saturday night's main event, which turned her mood positive, and they hugged it out. Zarya said she never had a friend like her before. Another mission failure for Ren to have a singles match longer than 5 minutes on television. It has been 15 months. She's had one match over 5 minutes in her entire WWE career. I wish I had more to say about this. It was absolutely nothing, and it's a shame. The parking lot segment was better simply because we actually got continued character and storyline development from the ladies. It's tough to tell who is going to turn on who at this point. I was pretty positive that Sol was turning heel. Now I'm back thinking it might be Zarya. JC Jane and Fatal Influence confronted Kendall and Ren after the bell, given the former's Iron Survivor win. Jane put Gray over, saying her story is why so many people want to join WWE, and while she hates to say it, reality is going to smack her in the face when her 15 minutes of fame expire at New Year's Evil, and JC sends her on a downward spiral. Jane said potential doesn't win championships. Holding the NXT title is an entirely different level than the Evolve strap. She said 2025 was the year of JC Jane. And when she said this, I was thinking to myself, I'm like, you know what? She actually should be a nominee for Women's Wrestler of the Year and Breakout Superstar of the Year, Breakout Wrestler of the Year in the 2025 Getting Over Awards, aka the Meaties. Anyway, she went from disrespected and overlooked to becoming the most dominant woman in NXT. That was her claim. A history maker who also held the TNA Knockouts Championship. Jane called herself a rock star in the ring and the glue that holds the division together, and she's not going to let a flash-in-the-pan bootleg Kurt Angle steal her spotlight. Gray admitted that she's a rookie with a lot to learn still, saying she's overcome low expectations her entire life and career, and she's going to do it again, beating Jane just like the way JC beat Stephanie Vicaire when no one believed in her. Kendall said the best part about being the underdog is the face people make when they bite back. Ren, Fallon Henley, and Lainey Reed all wound up chirping at one another, leading to a 3-on-2 brawl that left Fatal Influence standing tall. So the presumption here is that Ren QCC will add a third to even their sides as this feud progresses. It seemed at one point like that would be Carmen Petrovic a few weeks ago, but she hasn't really been around them recently. JC was on fire here. In a year filled with big moments and great promos, this was one of her best. You believed every word she said, and you couldn't really help but nod along. She was speaking facts, line by line. It's kind of funny how her group are like high school mean girls just turned up to 15. Kendall struggled comparatively. She lost her spot early, allowed third-party chirping from the other women to distract her. She got out of her flow. But she did find herself rather quickly after that, and she was able to power through to the finish. Overall, a pretty hot start to what's going to be a month-long feud. Maybe Ren will actually be allowed to wrestle when they do their tag team match. She should really be the one getting the fall in that, actually. At least both of them are in the main event scene, Ren and Kendall. But again, Ren needs to get some run. And by the way, it's hysterical that they teased Ren going after Fallon's Speed title. You know, the one title that is almost guaranteed to have a match that is shorter than 5 minutes. It's true insanity that they won't let this woman wrestle. Hank and Tank were wearing kimonos backstage, having just returned from Japan, calling themselves the Belly Boys. They did seem a bit refreshed. Out the Mud confronted them, rekindling that feud that began before they left, leading to a tag team match next week. This wasn't much of anything. We'll see if these guys have improved at all, or if they're just doing the same shtick. I presume it's going to be the latter. I did like that they got a full excursion video package that aired both on Deadline and TV. But I got to tell you, when WWE sends some of these talents overseas and they do a month or like 3 weeks, I don't think that's enough. Does it help? Sure. But you need like extended time on an excursion to actually improve, like 3 months probably at a minimum. You got to go through like a cycle almost. And sending them there for 3 weeks, having them wrestle a couple matches, do a little training, I don't know that that really gets the job done. We also had Shiloh Hill against Lexis King. Hill's entrance looked cool at the start, but I'm not sure they figured out like the transition in just yet. King taunted him for being a rookie. Shiloh pulled out his mouth guard with the tooth and handed it to the referee, hitting a shoulder tackle and swinging neck breaker. He came unglued after getting kicked in the face. He lost his belt and then hit a pop-up neck breaker called Whisper to the Beast for the win. I'll be honest. I like this kid in LFG, the little I saw of him. This was an unimpressive debut. I'm not shading him by any means, but this didn't particularly make me care about him. It didn't make me want to see him wrestle more. And nothing they've done with him to this point made me say, oh, this is a standout guy who I could see as NXT champion one day. Not yet. I'm not saying it can't happen. Just saying it hasn't happened yet. Now, here at the Getting Over Wrestling podcast, we benefit from, not having to watch shows like NXT with commercial breaks. And that is because the Silver King is all in with NordVPN. Whether it is Raw, SmackDown, NXT, Premium Live events on Netflix, or even Saturday night's main event this weekend on YouTube, internationally, Peacock in the United States, using NordVPN is a better experience. It's easy to set up, drastically better viewing. You get high quality streams, commercial-free shows. All you have to do is sign up at nordvpn.com/gettingover. Open the app, quick connect to another country like Canada, open Netflix or YouTube or whatever you want, and watch the show. That is going to be crucial, I'm telling you, for Saturday night's main event this weekend. It's on YouTube internationally, Peacock in the United States. The commercial breaks are no longer during the matches because it's not on NBC. That's positive. But on YouTube, you skip commercials entirely. So again, get the best discount from NordVPN. Go to nordvpn.com/gettingover. Our link will give you 4 extra free months off the 2-year plan. And there's no risk because Nord has a 30-day money-back guarantee. You can get around online censorship and surveillance, protect your private data, avoid online threats, and you can use this on 10 different devices at once. So improve your WWE viewing, save some money, especially if you don't have that Peacock subscription anymore. Browse safer online and get the best discount for the best VPN at nordvpn.com/gettingover. We love having NordVPN as the official singular sponsor of the Getting Over Wrestling podcast. With that said, let's move into AEW, and we have a lot to talk about here. My overall review of AEW over the last 2 weeks, having watched 8 hours basically in one sitting, is that the Continental Classic simultaneously makes the shows better and worse. Better from the standpoint that we're getting high-quality wrestling regularly with the ability for Tony Khan to book random matches without storylines, yet they're still relevant. But he's actually managed to insert some storytelling into each league, which gets a big hat tip from me. The worst part of it is that the rest of the shows are comprised of like 3 total storylines that are being dragged out to an insane degree. That's okay for the world title picture, but the stuff we'll talk about with like Don Callis and FTR separately, it has been grating watching all of this. And through 2 weeks, there was zero development anywhere in the women's singles division, despite Chris Statlander needing a new opponent. That is bad. All that said, the relevancy grade is 50%. 5 out of 10 non-tournament matches across the last 4 episodes were relevant, but of course, all the tournament matches were. So if you add those in, it raises the number significantly. Let's get into everything that happened. Eddie Kingston beat Katsuyori Shibata in 7 minutes. Lots of stuff outside the ring. Rough match. Kingston then cut a promo on Samoa Joe, challenging him for the title at Winter is Coming. Not Kingston's best by any means. Him getting a title match, it fits in storyline. It's ridiculous in reality, considering he doesn't want Hook to be led astray by a guy who he had led him for years. Joe and Kingston, they did a confrontation on the following Dynamite. Joe said he purposely put Hook with Kingston so he knew what it was like to be a loser. I'll remind you here, Hook didn't turn on Eddie. He turned on Hangman Page. Kingston called him a sellout. Who did he sell out to exactly? He said he no longer respects Joe because he's become the guy that he used to hate. And if Joe doesn't bring his old Ring of Honor champion self, then Kingston will eat him alive and take the title. The closing line from Eddie was strong. The rest of this left a lot to be desired, considering how great both of them are on the mic. And there's only so much heat going into a match, given it was a foregone conclusion that Joe would retain. The Ops beat Dark Order in an awful match. The idea was that Dark Order won an ROH match and are still close friends with Hangman, except we never see them on AEW TV, and that relationship hasn't even been on screen in about a year. If they were friends, wouldn't they have shown up to help him win the AEW title? They did a brief backstage segment, but woof, this was bad. Putting this on Dynamite was a joke. Hangman attacked after the bell with a chain. He got outnumbered, but ducked with Powerhouse Hobbs leveling Shibata. Then he hit Hobbs with a bottle that didn't break as security, not even the Ops Dojo idiots, security, ran in to temporarily stop him before getting beat. Why is security getting involved in this? Where was Swerve Strickland? Does Tony Khan think this type of booking is helping Hangman? Like, holy crap. Hangman later cut one of his screaming promos backstage, angry that he's beaten so many quality opponents over the years, yet Hook cost him the AEW championship. Yeah, dude, that's what I've been saying.
Thank you!
He promised he would take the championship back and threatened the Ops to fight him and Swerve, presumably at Winter is Coming. I mean, Shibata just lost to Kingston. I'm not sure the big guns need to get brought out for him, but okay. Swerve cut a promo on Collision talking about rebuilding himself into a danger coming out of surgery. Also, he can win back the title. He reminded Joe that he took the title from him previously, then suggested to Hangman that he team with him at Winter is Coming for one night only. He said after that, they will need to have a serious conversation. Hangman already basically alluded to them teaming. Swerve should have come out and said, I heard what you were laying down, man. I accept. Those are the details that get lost in AEW that are so easy to get right. So then, just as Swerve has a bit of momentum in this segment, Josh Alexander, of all people, comes out to absolute silence. Tony Schiavone goes, wow, the walking weapon. How about that? Yeah, how about that? Anyway, his contention is that AEW is not Swerve's house, but Don Callis' house. Thrilling. Alexander reminded Swerve that it's the family who took him out, yet apparently he doesn't want revenge for that. Then he bragged about breaking Kota Ibushi's femur and reminded how Kenny Omega still hasn't bothered to get revenge on him either. His contention was that he deserves a title shot. Let me just cut in for a second. Alexander is 1-6-1 in AEW singles matches. His win being the countout that Ibushi was supposed to win otherwise. In what world does that suggest this guy deserves a number one contendership? This shit went on forever. Alexander probably spoke longer here than his entire AEW career combined to this point. Maybe times 2. Shibata took out Swerve's knee and Alexander was proud of himself. It was seriously horrendous after Swerve finished speaking, especially considering Alexander went out there and blatantly reminded us of multiple plot holes that continue to exist in AEW. So we had Hangman and Swerve beat the Ops in a Tornado tag team match that started with the faces needing to beat up the Ops Dojo guys who attacked them in the crowd. Swerve had his stupid staple gun, took down a guy nearly twice his size by putting it into his back a couple times like he was holding him at gunpoint. Sometimes I just can't with this company. They brawled into the concourse during commercial and the bell didn't ring until they got all the way back down. Page was choking out Shibata. Strickland flew in with Swerve Stomp but didn't cover. This was so we could get a visual of Hangman and Swerve literally fighting back to back. Hobbs had accidentally laid out Shibata with the faces combining for offense and then staring off one another. Hobbs got powerbombed into a prop table. Shibata ate buckshot lariat and house call. Hangman later said he was focused on the AEW championship again. Seeing them teaming was cool. The process of the match the way it unfolded was kind of ridiculous. They worked well together. And in reality, it would interest me most in them going after the trios titles. Grab Kingston, who hates these guys, and take the trio straps from the Ops and then go after the world title one by one. It's not what they're doing, though. Considering Swerve has what seems to be a number one contendership or something that was undefined with Alexander, I guess he's going to be the next challenger, or maybe it winds up a triple threat. I don't know, man. AEW Championship, Joe retained over Kingston on Dynamite preceding this. Kingston said he wanted the real Joe, and Joe said he would easily step over him because he brought out the real Joe. Kingston also got emotional ahead of his third world title opportunity, promising Joe was in for the fight of his life. This was exactly the match that you would expect in a good way.
Oh, we got two big meaty men bumping me tonight.
My only real issue is there was not much energy given, like how slow Eddie moves in general and then coming out of surgery. Joe put Kingston in an STF. He saluted John Cena, which was extremely cool, coming off all the homages in the AJ Styles match. Not sure the fans noticed in the arena, but at home it was obvious. Kingston missed a flailing back fist, which Joe easily ducked, catching him with Coquina Clutch to retain the title. Borderline, 3.75 stars B+. I like the concept of Kingston bringing out the version of Joe who doesn't cut corners and just takes people down. The only problem is that guy never really went away. Still, it was nice to have an AEW title match, main event Dynamite. The build was strong, albeit a bit repetitive with an undeserving challenger. This may have indicated Joe will not have a long title run, but we'll see if more lower level defenses are bubbled up before whatever they are doing with Swerve and Hangman. That brings us into the Continental Classic. I'm going to go through these matches in the order they were wrestled. Pac beat Mike Bailey via referee's decision with the Brutalizer, 4 stars A-. The best bout of the Thanksgiving Collision. I don't mind knockout or pass out finishes. I hate how AEW wrestlers will be knocked out the second a submission is put on them. At least sell the move and go to sleep. You know what I mean? It happens all the time. It is so frustrating. Konosuke Takeshita beat Roderick Strong in a nice match after hitting Chaos Theory, a pump knee, and Raging Fire. The finish was unnecessarily plodding. Kazuchika Okada beat Pac in a solid match that fell well below my expectations given their immense talent. Pac hit a superplex-style brainbuster, locked in the Brutalizer, but Okada rolled through for a pinning combination to escape. The finishing sequence was nails, perfectly executed by both guys. Kyle Fletcher beat Kevin Knight in a damn good match, also 4 stars A-. Fletcher countered the UFO with double knees and a pinning combination. The referee counted despite having no possible view of Knight's shoulders. It was fast-paced to a finish, multiple near falls before the brainbuster. 2 guys with really bright futures. Claudio Castagnoli beat Jon Moxley. There was a cool bit before the bell with Renee doing a sideline report from the crowd. This was a nice touch. It fit considering they were teammates fighting. There was more storyline. She actually wound up doing this multiple times after this for different matches. Bryan Danielson did a nice job explaining how control of the Death Riders could be up for grabs too, considering Mox has been a loser of late. Oh, we also learned that Claudio had won the CMLL title, which is so funny that everyone's like, oh, when he goes to AEW, they're going to make him world champion. He's won the CMLL title and the ROH title, but has not sniffed real gold in AEW. Anyway, this went exactly as you would expect. Mox bladed into a Crimson Mask early, dripped the entire time. Mox hit a stomp, rear naked choke, and paradigm shift. And then they both just stood up, and Claudio ran up Mox, hitting him with a European uppercut and covering for the 1-2-3. The winner made sense considering the story they're telling. I enjoyed the finish too. Sometimes, like in a real fight, they just end. It could be a punch to the liver, a perfect jab. Doesn't always need to be a haymaker or an uppercut. I guess in this case, it was technically an uppercut, but 3.75 stars B+. Orange Cassidy beat Strong, who insisted days earlier he was not in the conglomeration despite them being in another segment together. Nice show opening match. Strong was mostly dominant with his backbreakers. Orange caught him in a pinning combination, which is usually how his matches go. Mascara Dorada beat Claudio in a 3.75 star B+ match. This was done so Dorada has a claim to challenge for the CMLL title in the future. This was the only match here that I kind of hated. I thought it was so stupid to run this immediately after Claudio beat Mox, which kind of cut the legs out of that huge victory. You need Dorada to beat Claudio for whatever math you're doing? Fine. Wait 7 to 10 days. It was dumb to do this so clean, so straightforward, so soon after he had just beat Mox. Really confusing booking logic. Takeshita beat Mox in a 4.25 star A match. Mox ate a Blue Thunder Bomb into an already broken announce table and then a frog splash as soon as he rolled back inside. Mox answered with his signatures and looked ready to put him away until a knee was gave out. A knee that he was selling in the match gave out. That allowed Takeshita to power through into the finish with Raging Fire, winning it. Outside of commentary, completely overselling everything in this match. It was nevertheless a
banger.
Mox cut a promo with everyone except Pac and Claudio behind him, saying everyone can count him out, given how much he's lost, but they're hungry and they're hardworking. Darby Allin got pulled from this tournament due to injury. Imagine that. He cut a promo on a rooftop for some reason, wishing Jack Perry luck replacing him. The mention of Jack's name got boos from the crowd. So just to get this straight, AEW capitalized on Darby making Mox quit by having him lose a bunch of matches, and now he's injured. Incredible. Okada beat Perry. This included Jack biting Kazu on his wazoo. Seriously? He was set up in a tombstone pile driver and escaped by munching on his crotch. Oh, he did it in a loss too, which makes it even worse. Good match besides that. And then Speedball beat Fletcher in what is being considered the best match of the tournament to this point. I personally like Takeshita and Mox better, but this was largely Bayley hitting his standard offense and Fletcher just kicking out of stuff. There was a crazy spot where Bayley did that double knee moonsault, but he landed on his knees flat on the floor ringside. That's a scary thing to do as an athlete. Bayley kicked out of a brainbuster for a big false finish before they did a pinfall counter sequence with Speedball using a cross-armed package to get the upset victory. The way the match escalated over the final few minutes was superb. Really, the only thing missing from it was stakes. It was just another match in the tournament in the early portion of it as well. But it was a no-brainer, 4.25 stars. Since this show was delayed a day, I've seen that others have gone way higher on this match, saying it's like maybe the best Dynamite match of the entire year. No. We had Will Ospreay and Takeshita on Dynamite. It was the best AEW TV match of 2025. Wasn't topped before, wasn't topped since. And it was the best match by a mile. I think I was at 4.75 or 5 stars, A+ for that. This was cool moves, kickouts, and mostly 50-50 offense, but a top-tier match needs more than that. Don Callis family did a segment about what they're thankful for. Everyone said nice things except Okada, who said he's thankful he doesn't have to team with Takeshita. It's actually kind of funny how like childish he's being in their feud. He's like an older brother who blames his parents for having another kid. After the Fletcher Knight match I mentioned, Callis hit the ring with 2 of his guys carrying the money bags like they just didn't deposit the money in a bank or anything like that. What idiots. He taunted the Young Bucks with their money, daring them to come take it. They beat up the 2 losers and hit BTE trigger on Fletcher. Matt Jackson grabbed one of the 2 money bags. Let's just clarify, 2 money bags. It was clearly empty. It's like when someone carries a coffee cup in a movie and you can tell there's actually nothing in it. Okada then grabbed him from behind for a Rainmaker. Jurassic Express saved. This was one of those segments where you kept hoping it would end and it just kept going. Okada gave Luchasaurus a low blow, flicked off Jack Perry, who bit his finger. This Callis family stuff, it is changed the channel fuel for me at this point. I'm pretty sure Callis licked his finger and stuck it in Nick's eye. After the faces were getting beaten down like 7-on-4 or something, Kenny Omega finally decided to show up in a Christmas sweater and he cleared the ring. He had a quick sequence with Okada just for good measure. And then Callis family left with the money. Okada later blamed Takeshita for not being there. He showed up and got in Kazu's face. AEW then had Callis explain, took 90 seconds to explain that the Unified Championship is a symbol, not a real title, representing the International and Continental titles, because Okada holds both of them. Renee kept asking him, well, why didn't you put the International title on the line in the tournament? I don't know, Renee. How about because it's the Continental Classic for the Continental title? What are we doing here, man?
What is going on?
We do not need 6 Don Callis segments per episode. And while I appreciated the efforted explanation here, the only reason it was necessary is because AEW has made such a convoluted mockery of its men's championship situation with these 2 titles existing while debuting the national championship, but having these 2 titles called something else because one person holds both of them. It is horrendous. You thought I was done with Don Callis. I'm not. After the Perry Okada match, Callis offered Jack a chance to join the family with a signing bonus out of the Bucks' money. I would take that offer as long as I'd be allowed to put the money in the bank and not keep it in a duffel bag. They have this dude cornered 7-on-1. 7-on-1. Extended segment in the ring. No Luchasaurus, no Bucks, no Omega helping him. Jack said no, and then he attacked them. So Luchasaurus finally decided to run down, but he didn't help his partner because then it would be 7-on-2. So then the Bucks come in with chairs. They clear the ring 3-on-7. Jack was down. He wasn't able to help. Okada took a BTE trigger, and then Callis, who was outside the ring. None of his guys are in the ring. He's out of dodge. He's safe. He goes back into the ring on his own accord. The Bucks took the money and went to super kick him, but Takeshita took the bullet. Callis later cut another promo. I am not making this up. Another promo. Angry over the Bucks taking his money, telling them to find a partner for a trios match. Winner take all for the money. Number 1, find a partner. we know who they're teaming with. Number two, why would they put the money back on the line? The cash is in their possession. They can put it in the bank and move on with their lives. It was stolen from them in the first place. The Bucks later asked Omega to team with them, and he said he would do it because he hates Callis. He doesn't want any of the money. This was all somehow worse than the prior segments because there was even less logic involved. What were previously 2 duffel bags became 1, I guess, so they have all their money now, except they have to be willing to lose it to prove a point. I'm at a loss. And please, stop giving Callis 6 segments per show. He's a good managerial presence. He's a good heel. He can cut a promo, but overexposure is a real thing, and it's currently happening. Not to mention, there is nothing special about the family as they are one of 3 large heel factions. Now, if you cut off 50 to 65% of the people in the Don Callis family, and you left it with the best of the best that they have, Kyle Fletcher, Kazuchika Okada, Konosuke Takeshita, maybe you throw in Josh Alexander because you need someone to lose, and maybe you add one other person to lose. So that way they can be a tag team as well. And that's your group, and you say we are the strongest faction. You put them on the same level to a degree as Evolution in WWE because you can say, oh, they're all champions or former champions or future champions, right? Then you have something that's different and unique. Instead, just a bunch of heel losers who get beat and a couple guys who can really wrestle, but they're at odds with and Callis is involved in it feels like he's involved in 95% of AEW TV. He's not, but it's probably 50%. And it's just endless and it's grating on me. It is killing my interest in watching this shit weekly when it's Callis, and I'll talk about it in a moment. FTR. Women's Tag Team Title Tournament. Timeless Love Bombs beat Megan Bayne and Marina Shafir in that hardcore holiday death match, a stipulation added to one single tournament match in ridiculous fashion. This was the last semifinal. Toni Storm slid Mina Shirakawa a pool cue to use against Shafir, but Shirakawa got speared through a prop table by Bayne. I think Shafir bladed. Storm Zero on Bayne went into Shafir's stomach, and then Luther came out dressed as Santa Claus, giving Shafir a middle finger through a package. Storm hit Shafir in the head with her shoe, and then won in a small package. Commentary tried to gaslight us into believing this was a quality match. It was not, by any means. Yuck. There was a sit-down segment between the Bombs and Babes of Wrath where Storm called them all bitches and talked about having a real relationship with Shirakawa. Willow Nightingale pointed out her team's similar paths. Tony said she's beaten both of them. Harley Cameron said she's accomplished more in 3 years than either of them did in their 3 years. That's just not true. And then Tony Schiavone cursed for some reason. It wasn't bad. It wasn't good either. So we had the final. Timeless Love Bombs fought Babes of Wrath for the title on Dynamite. Harley hit her finishing move as a counter with Willow adding Dr. Bomb for the 1-2-3, all as Tony was knocked out ringside. This was the right result going with the underdogs. It's a shame that AEW spent all that time building up all those other women as real tag teams, only for people who were not involved in that storyline and not actual teammates to be both of the teams in the finals and then ultimately the first champions. But you want some of your more popular wrestlers as champions, especially inaugural champions. And this was a great feel-good moment for a couple of women who have worked really hard. They had a sweet babyface post-match celebration promo. You couldn't help but smile for them. And I loved their matching gear also. Great way to start the show on a high, especially since we knew it was going to end in a heel victory. 3.5 stars B for the match. Am I giving them a little bit of extra credit because it hit me just right? Yes, I am. Brodito was sad they lost the tag team titles, but proud of their brotherhood with Bandito taking responsibility for the loss, promising he would win them back eventually. Brody King agreed, saying their tag team wasn't going anywhere even as they worked singles. The segment was shit, but I liked the booking concept. As I've said before, I want more singles-based friendship teams in WWE, and AEW actually does a good job of putting those together. Bang Bang Gang thankfully interrupted an excruciating FTR promo led by Big Stoke. Juice Robinson now has a full ugly-ass mullet. They wanted a tag team title shot for previously pinning FTR, laying the whole goat shtick on thick. They can keep saying it, doesn't make it true. They spoke a lot more than this, but they didn't really say much of anything. One of the better Bang Bang Gang segments of late showed personality, seemed like real challengers, even if they haven't done that much. FTR cut a promo back at them 4 days later, saying they are Billy's boy and Mr. Storm, respectively. 4 more days later, FTR came out for another promo, and man,
I'm bored, brother.
To say it was repetitive would be an understatement. FTR literally repeated their exact insults and had no additional material besides calling them irrelevant and daring them to touch their titles. Bang Bang Gang then assumed they had a title match for Winter is Coming, even though the majority of the segment was about FTR not agreeing to a match and never agreeing to one at the end. These endless FTR segments on Collision especially are agonizing. Luckily on Dynamite, we only had Stoke repeating the same shit for 30 seconds. If there was a trend from these 4 AEW episodes, it's that the company is becoming far more like WWE than it said it was going to be and than it wants to admit. There were 3 or 4 storylines that had one promo segment after another, a level of repetitiveness we used to crucify WWE for back in the day. Remember when AEW basically refused to do in-ring promos and didn't want to do any segments like this? Now you're getting like 3 or 4 of them per episode. Trust me, I am not hating on storytelling. It's got to go somewhere and it's got to be interesting and it's got to not bore me. FTR is boring the shit out of me. Ricochet cut a backstage promo saying he sets the trends now as national champion and he's accomplished every goal he set to this point in AEW, elevating the company. He also said, where the best wrestle.
Off is a direction you can fuck.
I actually didn't even mean to play that one. Sorry.
Are you fucking kidding me?
That's the one I wanted. By the way, I was watching old John Cena clips beyond ripping off Jadakiss. The whole aha thing that Ricochet does. Cena used to do that all the time when he was the doctor of Thugonomics. So Ricochet is not just ripping off Jadakiss. He's literally ripping off Cena. Dalton Castle and the Outrunners beat MXMTV in less than 3 minutes. This was a real match that happened on AEW television. There was some comedy shit. They were dressed up for a casting call. I fast forwarded. The Demand destroyed the faces after the bell. Ricochet then got into it with some country music dude who shoved him, really moving the needle there with a person I've never heard of in my entire life. 4 days later, Ricochet said promoters were begging him to help them by appearing and making viral moments in their promotions. And he was going to start doing that by showing up in Ring of Honor. You cannot make it up, man. Ricochet beat Ace Austin in a national title match that was just okay. There was also no reason for Austin to get this match, considering he's 1-2 so far in AEW and already lost to Ricochet in his debut match in August. FTR attacked Austin after the bell, which led the rest of Bang Bang Gang out for the successful save. I realized at this point they've been involved in multiple 2-on-3 segments, despite having another group member who could have been in the ring with them for 3-on-3 segments this entire time. Daniel Garcia beat Matt Menard via referee's decision with Mox's Bulldog choke. Garcia cut a promo saying Menard's had his back for a while, but now he wants him to bleed for him. He didn't give any reason as to why he turned on this dude, and he admitted like he was his guy. He helped him. Remember, this guy, Garcia, has done nothing but lose since joining Death Riders before this. Mark Briscoe confronted after the bell saying he heard Garcia put the TNT title in his mouth. I think that happened 3 weeks ago. And he said he's not going to hide from any challengers. He said he would devour him like a Thanksgiving dinner. Garcia immediately backed away like a loser. 4 nights later, Briscoe cut a backstage promo saying he didn't respect Garcia for backing away, but he got the match made anyway. So the guy didn't ask for a title match in the moment. He didn't stand up to him, but Briscoe still wants to give him one. Unironically, Briscoe has a way about him where he can make chicken salad out of chicken shit. I shit you not, though. The follow-up to this was a promo led by Shafir and Wheeler Yuta. Garcia finally took over in the 3rd stage, saying Briscoe was stupid for volunteering a title match. Yeah, no shit, he was. It was pretty funny seeing the B Squad like set up a match for Garcia that he's going to lose. And I shit you not. Yeah, let me just keep saying shit here because it is shit. They did another in-ring promo segment on Dynamite that was much more heated, to be honest, than the prior few, but nevertheless repetitive. Red Velvet cut a promo on Mercedes Moné for a rematch at ROH Final Battle 2 weeks after she lost the title. 4 days later, Moné was angry she lost to Chris Statlander, but happy to defend her title against someone she already beat. Rough promos from both of them, but they had a great match at Final Battle with Velvet regaining the title. I skimmed that show very quickly, but I watched this match. I would say 80% of this match. Probably one of Mercedes' best in signing with AEW. Red Velvet got carried here, but man, it still worked. Mercedes then beat Layla Gray in a TBS title match that was straight up terrible and completely undeserved. Layla has wrestled 39 singles matches in AEW. 39. She's never gotten a win on television. Ever. Yet she got a TBS title match. Over on Dynamite, there was a short video package of Mercedes crashing out, having now lost multiple matches in a row. So perhaps they are going to do this deal where she just goes to all these individual promotions and drops the titles one by one to other women. And kudos to her if so, but we will see. And lastly, Thekla beat Ty Mello in a straight up awful match. Mello has not improved one iota since NXT. She's been in AEW, supposedly training, getting better, quote unquote, for years. The same person, and honestly, maybe even worse. Triangle of Madness attacked afterward for no reason. That led Jamie Hayter and Stat down for the save. This is when we saw Stat. 4 episodes. This is when we saw Chris Statlander. With Triangle of Madness and Ty Mello. And then the next week, they beat up a bunch of jobbers backstage. That was it. Nothing from Stat, promo, talking shit about them, hating them, wanting to get someone's back, nothing. That's how the new AEW Women's Champion was booked. Over 2 weeks, 8 hours of television.
No, don't like that.
And that wraps up this week in AEW. So look, we had a ton to cover here on the Getting Over Wrestling podcast. And I got to tell you, I'm going to do a little Barry Horowitz, pat myself on the back. I feel like knocking this out in under 75 minutes is the Silver King operating pretty expeditiously, especially for a Friday show going into a weekend. Speaking of the weekend, make sure you are back with us Saturday night as soon as WWE Saturday night's main event goes off the air for an instant analysis podcast, our 4th episode of the week. It has been a run. I want to say we've done like 14 episodes in the last month, which is a huge number for us. We normally do obviously 2 per week, and then we add on an additional one for instant analysis for special events. But man, it has been quite a run here on the Getting Over Wrestling podcast. Once Saturday concludes, the Silver King is going to be able to rest his voice for a few days. But before I do that, I do need to remind you that here at Getting Over,
It's all about Defy.
so head over to Apple Podcasts and Spotify, leave a 5-star rating on Apple, take a little extra time, leave a 5-star written review. If you do, we will read it live right here on the show. Don't forget to follow us on social media at Getting Overcast on Twitter and Blue Sky. You get episode drops, news, analysis, highlights. You can send in questions and comments. You can vote in polls. On YouTube, you can listen to full-length audio episodes and watch full-length video interviews, our latest, coming with Ethan Page and Natalia. And lastly, please remember,
I happen to love the number 5.
hope you do as well. For $5 a month, $50 for the entire year, you can become an official Getting Overhead. Just visit buymeacoffee.com/gettingover. Sign up. You'll get bonus audio, the fastest 5 minutes in professional wrestling, instant reactions to every major show, and exclusive news analysis posts every week. Again, your contribution, your subscription directly supports the continuation of this show. buymeacoffee.com/gettingover. Thank you all so much for listening to this edition of the Getting Over Wrestling podcast. It is time for the Silver King to sign off and leave you with just 3 final words. Bye for now.